Who be government teacher, call you show and tradition. Who be government teacher, call you show and tradition.
He was very, very strict about rehearsals because to perfect any song or any art, you need to practice.
They beat him so mercilessly, they tore every part of his body. He was bleeding all over. They broken his leg.
See, we need one good government, a straight and progressive, clean government that knows what it's doing. Yes, argument about stealing. Somebody don't take his own will belong to another person. Top of the road on this side, the people they waka. Office the workers, labor workers, workers.
Olufela Ransome Kuti was born on October 15, 1938. Professionally known as Fela Kuti, he would lead a life filled with bravado, mystery, and sheer passion for a better Nigeria.
But everybody get him power everywhere. Everybody get him power everywhere. I say everybody get him power.
But who was the real man behind the headlines?
Power everywhere. Oh.
Fela grew up in the upper middle-class city of Abeokuta, the capital of Ogun State, southwest Nigeria. His parents were pillars of local society. His mother, Fumilayo Ransome, was a teacher, a prominent aristocrat, and a feminist, while his father, Israel Ransome Kuti, was an Anglican preacher and the first president of the Nigerian Union of Teachers. They planned careers in medicine for their three sons, Olikoye, Beko, and Fela. Although his two brothers would end up being physicians, Fela's journey would take a different route, as early as the age of 8. That was when Fela learned piano and drums. He also led his school choir. Close friend and artist Koola believes musical influence at home helped Fela chart his path.
You know, his father had a secondary school he attended, and they had a piano in the house. So he was already playing piano in the house before he even went to university to study music in the UK.
His mother also introduced Fela to activism and the spirit of Pan-Africanism.
I remember Fela used to say how his mom used to take him to meetings. For example, his mom was an associate of Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. And he mentioned how one time Nkrumah came to Nigeria on a ship, and the mom had to go and meet Nkrumah on the ship. And the mom took him along. He was in the meeting when the mom was meeting with Nkrumah. He was very young.
These experiences would later shape the type of music that Fela would write. But when he was 17, his father died of cancer, and so it was his mother who urged him to get an education. Fela went to London to study medicine, but within days of arriving in England, he changed his mind. He instead registered at the Trinity College of Music. he signed up to follow a course in classical music. It hadn't been his prior intention, but on arriving in London, destiny took its course.
My great-grandfather was a musician. He was a reverend. He actually composed a lot of the Yoruba Christian songs. You know, so music has been in our bloodline from way back. You know, and I think that might have influenced Fela as well. Just that he didn't go the Christian way; he just went the other way.
Fela would spend the next 3 years at the Trinity College. While there, he formed a band called Koola Lobitos. With his skills in playing the trumpet, Fela would play a unique, inspiring sound dubbed High Life. High Life originated from Ghana in the early 20th century. But Fela's High Life was richly influenced by Nigerian sounds that included heavy use of percussion, trumpets, and horns. At a party in London, he met his first true love, a young Nigerian girl studying to become a secretary. 23-year-old Fela married Remilekun Taylor, who was just 20. Their first child, a daughter they named Yenny, soon followed. By the time Fela was finishing his studies in 1961, the Koola Lobitos had become one of London's most popular bands. The band was at the forefront of the underground London craze for African dance music. In 1962, Remilekun gave birth to their second child, a boy named Femi, who would grow up to become heir to his father's throne.
I knew from a very early age, because there was music all around me. It wasn't the conventional kind of father who would sit at home, do your homework, blah, blah, blah. It was more of a very happy person who just wanted to be outside, having a good time.
In 1963, Fela and family returned to Nigeria, where they welcomed their third child, a girl named Shola. Between parenting and adjusting to life in Nigeria, Fela played in a band and also worked as a producer at the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation. But he missed being center stage, singing in front of a live audience. So he resigned from his job and went back to play High Life, forming a new band, but maintaining the name Koola Lobitos. Tajuddin Olaleko remembers that transition led to a lifelong friendship with the music maestro.
I met Fela early in 1965. I read about him trying to form a high life band. So I just walked up to him and I introduced myself. He told me they were having rehearsal in his house at number 14A, Agegemuto Road. And he asked if I had any instrument, and I told him I was having a baritone saxophone. So he gave me an appointment to join him in the evening. It was a Monday.
As his band's popularity grew, his personal life was crumbling. His wife Remy could no longer stand what she termed as Fela's hectic life. The High Life star and Remy decided to live separately, although his children would still get a chance to spend time with their father.
Sunday jobs was like 3 till 7. And this was the only days my mother allowed us to go and watch my father. And I always used to dance on the dance floor, right in front of my father. Then I became more aware. And this was because of my father's fan base always asking me, when are you going to be a musician? Are you not going to be a musician? Are you going to be like your father? Blah, 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 blah. So they said to put it in my mind like poison.
Fela's skill and music mastery would be passed down to his band through rigorous rehearsals.
He was very, very strict about rehearsals, because to perfect any song or any art, you need to practice. We were rehearsing twice in a week, sometimes 3 times in a week, especially when we had a new song coming out.
Between 1967 and 1970, Nigeria was at crossroads. The military government was in the middle of a bloody civil war with the secessionist state of Biafra.
No break, no job, no sense. Go and kill. Go and die. Go and quench.
During this time, Fela's musical popularity was on a downward spiral. Nigerians were no longer dancing to high life. Fela and his band decided to leave for the United States on a 10-month-long tour.
He left, he thought, oh, they don't love my high life jazz here. I'm going to the US. When I come back from the US, you know, I've conquered the world in the US, they will respect me. When he got to the US, nobody knew him. So he was so disappointed. And that was where he met Sandra. Then he got back and recreated himself.
Sandra Isidore was an African-American civil rights activist and a member of the Black Panther Party. Through her, Fela was introduced to the writings of Malcolm X and other black radicals.
This is one time I would like to say a few things. Men are born, kings are made, treaties are signed, wars are fought.
This experience would greatly influence his music and political views.
So has Africa. Let us bind our wounds and live together in peace.
It would also remind him of his early days with his mother.
Long live Nigeria, viva Africa.
He had classical music training. So he had his own version of high life, which was high life jazz, he called it. But it wasn't very successful because it was a bit strange to Nigerians. And you know, Nigerians love to dance. The overriding influence would actually have come from his mom.
His mother urged him to sing music that his people would understand. The high life star would become more Afro-conscious and realized he wanted to play African music. By now, Fela was ready to leave the US and his mentor Sandra and start his new musical journey. His song, My Lady Frustration, introduced the world to his new sound, Afrobeat.
One, two, three, four.
Afrobeat was known for lights, dancers, and lots of instruments. It was also known for horns, strong percussions, and African chants. With the birth of Afrobeat came the change of his band's name from Koola Lobitos to Fela Ransome Kuti and the Africa 70. In 1970, he returned to his home country.
After our first American tour in 1969, he became a changed personality. He started singing about things happening around us, trying to open the minds, the hearts of people, the eyes of people, so that we can think, reason, and take some actions for our betterment.
Yes, if you are in England, music can be an instrument of enjoyment. So you can sing about love, you can sing about whom you're going to bed with next. But in my environment, my society is underdeveloping because of an alien system on our people now. So there's no music for enjoyment. There's nothing like love. There's something like a struggle for people's existence.
His music meant more to all of us. And probably this was because we lived what his music was talking about. No electricity, bad roads, corruption, dictatorship, military rule.
Them go reach bed power no day. Them go reach road go slow go come. Them go reach road police go slap. Them go reach road army.
So no matter what we all did as youngsters, we found ourselves coming back to listen to him all the time. And then as we grew older, we understood what he was saying or what his life was about.
His time in the United States also inspired him in other ways. He wanted to create a studio, a communal place where fellow Nigerians could enjoy art and be free. He lived and recorded his music at his commune. A year later, he launched a nightclub called The Shrine. The two places grew popular with young Nigerians. Meanwhile, Lemmy had just graduated from high school and was waiting to join university. His father wanted him to become a mechanical engineer, but like Fela, his passion was in art. When Fela released a 6-mini album titled The Rofo Rofo Fight, Lemmy designed a cover for the album. A journalist who knew Fela saw and commissioned Lemmy to draw a portrait of Fela and promised to introduce the artist to the musical genius.
When Fela saw the portrait, he loved it so much. He said, "Wow, God damn it." I've never had those words before. Fela brought out his checkbook and wrote out 120 naira. That's 4 times what I earned. As he handed over the check to me, my spirit said no. I returned the check. I said, "No, Fela, I give you from the bottom of my heart. I don't want money." And he was surprised. I was 18 years old. He was surprised. The next thing he did, he tore out a sheet of paper from an exercise book and wrote out a gate pass. Said, "Please admit bearer any show free of charge." I collected that. That was my ticket to Kalakuta, to the shrine, and to my destiny.
Lemmy would go on to design the covers for 26 of Fela's albums. He would also become a close friend and confidant of Fela, sharing his Pan-African views. Fela Kuti's name was becoming known beyond the borders of Nigeria, and this gave him the confidence to spread the message of Afrobeat. He used his platform at the shrine to encourage resistance to dictatorship and to encourage Pan-African socialism.
On this side, the people, they waka. Office workers, labor workers.
The commune also brought him into regular conflict with the authorities, leading to the first of many arrests. In fact, during his life, he was arrested some 200 times.
Either for abduction, because he was having some girls who for one reason or another, ran out of home and found solace in his enclave. I will mention like Alake, who was the daughter of a judge, a Nigerian judge. Folake, who was a daughter of a police officer. For that, he was being arrested, and sometimes when he came into smoking Indian hemp, he was arrested, he was, put behind bars for that kind of thing. And then, not to talk of his songs.
All our money, look all our property as it is. We don't know what's happened.
Apart from himself, Fela's family also would become a target for attacks.
And this is what they've been doing.
In April 1974, Fela was arrested once again. The prison cell he was held in was called Kalakuta. Upon his release, Fela returned to his commune and renamed it the Kalakuta Republic. He fenced it off and declared it a breakaway state, jealously guarding it and running it like his own fiefdom.
He had laws in Kalakuta. He had his own jail too in Kalakuta. So he was the judge in Kalakuta. If there was a situation, he will hold court. He will hear and say, "Court, order!" Everybody must keep quiet. And they'll call the two persons. Maybe two ladies are fighting or two guys are fighting. And they'll say, "Yeah, tell me your story."
Despite being judge, jury, and jailer in the commune, Fela's commitment to his first love of music never wavered.
With all the drama going around him, Fela will be rehearsing. He has this principle, he has to rehearse some hours every day, not en bloc. As we're talking, Fela could be doing interview like this. He will have his sax, and he's playing a John Coltrane. You know John Coltrane? That's John Coltrane, one of the jazz greats. Fela loved John Coltrane a lot. He'll be playing John Coltrane, and he'll be playing, and he's answering your question. He'll answer your question, then
your illustrious predecessor.
He would use music to point out the ills his country was facing. He would use it to launch scathing attacks on the government. He would use it to spur his audience to action.
See, we need one good government, a straight and progressive, clean government that knows what it's doing. No diplomacy, no compromises, no agreement, no Marxism, Leninism, no capitalism, Africanism.
In between music and activism, he would frequently be behind bars on a variety of different charges. He changed his middle name to Anikulapo, which translates to "he who carries death in his pouch." But more than anything else in this world, Fela was devoted to his mother. Despite the many raids on Kalakuta Republic by the military, Fela's mother stood by her son.
All politics in Africa, only two people have walked on the streets to follow people to where they are going. Nkrumah and my mother.
In early 1977, Fela Kuti and his Africa 70 band released Zombie, a 2-track mini album that was overtly anti-military.
The relationship between Fela and the military government was getting very edgy. And Fela came out with this song to lampoon the army directly. When he's performing on stage, he mimics their sentry system and all that. And it's hilarious, but it's very dangerous. So by the time he recorded the song, he said to me, I should do a cover art for it. Do you know, for like 2 weeks, I wasn't able to decide on the concept I wanted to use.
No break, no job, no sense. Go and kill. Go and die.
Fela questioned Nigerian soldiers' blind obedience to carrying out orders. He also urged the masses to rise up against the military rule of General Olusegun Obasanjo. The army was furious, and on February 18, 1977, they responded with force. Laide Kuti, one of the many girls living in the commune, had been entrusted by Fela to look after his mother. She vividly remembers the morning of the raid. In the house, Laide was sheltering with Fela's mother Fumilayo and his younger brother Beko.
I was in Mama's room that morning, that Wednesday morning. So Obasanjo came with Yaradua, Shehu Yaradua. Then both of them came. They were standing in front of Lido Bar. Meanwhile, they have woken Fela up from sleep. That there is a force at the gate, that they want to force the gate open. Fela has already come up to Mama's room.
Some 1,000 army officers were involved in the attack on the compound. Fela and his family pleaded for restraint, but those pleas fell on deaf ears.
So Fela was addressing them. That's why. Let peace reign. Give peace a chance. You know, they did not listen to Fela. That was when Obasanjo drove in. Obasanjo came with the Yaradua. And when, meanwhile, the soldiers were at the gates. Plenty. Plenty.
We saw people putting their hands on their heads, you know, as a show of surrender for the police and military men holding guns around. So we went through. By the time we got there, we had to bend down in the taxi, and we saw flames.
But the operation did not stop there. Fela was their target, and they were determined to get him.
Government threw my mother out of window, Mrs. Fumilayo and Kalakuta Kuti, who fought her blood for this country.
Fela's mother never recovered from the injuries she sustained that day and would die 14 months later. Fela Kuti himself also received a serious beating. It would be one of the darkest days of his life.
I saw how they brought out Fela. They brought out everybody naked that day. Most people were marked. It was like mark of the beast, like Peter Tosh would say, mark of the beast. Everybody had a mark.
The rape woman inside Kalakuta threw his mother from the window. They now took Fela, held him, soldiers, held him like that. And they were flogging him naked, bleeding profusely, naked all the way to Abalti barracks. But yet when he came back from that torture, when he recovered and his mother died and everything, did he stop fighting for the people? No. That makes me know that no matter the pain, no matter the strain, always look forward towards the gain.
We have officials instead of bosses. Them they ride motor car instead of motorcycle. Now helicopter instead of them waka. Now waka go waka for them. Authority people them could steal. Public contribute plenty money. Now authority people they steal. Authority man not the pickpocket. Now petty cash him go the pick. I'm robber him need gun. Authority man him need pen. Authority man in charge of money. Him no need gun. Him need pen. Pen gets power, gun not get.